Then in input needed to perform FEA. So here I'm going to tell you more in detail about geometry. That is, what we need is a 3D CAD model. In the sectional properties, I will need for the 1D beam element, I'm going to, for 1D element like beam element, bar element, trusses element, spring element, what I will need is their sectional properties to define the component, or to define that in a complete manner, so that I can do the calculations on that. If I'm having the beam 1D beam element, so for that I will need the area as a sectional property. Sometime moment of inertia, I will need to define that element. For spring I will need the spring stiffness. Then for 2D element I will need the thickness, because I'm having the 2D element, I'm having the surface, but I will need the thickness to define that geometry completely into the FEA domain, so that it will do the calculations which I need. For 3D element, you don't need to do any sectional properties, because 3D element it's completely defining the geometry. So for that you don't need any kind of sectional properties. But after the geometry you will need these sectional properties, and these sectional properties you can take from the CAD, and it is always good to verify that with the your CAD department, and understand what your considerations are correct or not. Then the third one is material. In the material, for linear analysis, we have to use the Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. These are the two main material properties. Basically, when we give these two material properties, other properties it will calculate automatically uh, uh, based on the equations, other equations and relations. We can find out other properties, but basic need is Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. Then nonlinear analysis, we have to Young's modulus, Poisson's ratio, yield stress and plastic strain we have to define. For the dynamic analysis you will need, along with the Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio, you will also need the density, because in dynamic analysis you are also going to consider the effect of inertia, and for that density is important. So we have to specify the density when we are going for dynamic analysis. And then the thermal analysis, basic is coefficient of thermal expansion, and for the boundary conditions you will specify the temperatures. Now when we say we will need the load also, once you do the first three steps, after that you have to define what load is going to apply on the structure. Then for that load we can say that structural loads are forces applied to the part or assembly during the operation. Such loads cause stresses, deformation and displacement in the component. So we have to basically study with that applied load what are the stresses, deformation and strain coming in the component, in the given component basically. And the type of loads can be inertial load, structural supports and thermal load. These are the loads which we have to specify. Then boundary conditions are also very important, and the test data. The boundary conditions are the most important actually the thing in this, because if we miss to give the boundary conditions we can end it with a lot of numerical errors while solving the simulation. Basically, when we solve the linear and nonlinear static simulation, at that time you will end up with a lot of errors if you miss to give the boundary conditions. In the boundary conditions, we are basically defining this type of supports now which object will have. It can be a fixed support, it can be a support constraint, it can be a pinned support or roller support. But we have to define whatever is the support, we have to define that support and apply the load, so that in that way we are actually simulating that actual behavior of the case. Then we will need the test data. It is always good to have test data for validation purpose, because when you will get your FEA results, it's always good to cross check with the test data, so that you will be assured that whatever calculations you are doing are correct, or whatever assumptions you have considered are correct. And here also we say that with the test data or with the hand calculation, there can be plus minus 10% error is acceptable, but mm, but it is always good to have less error than that. So these are the basic input requirement for the FEA. Then I'll go with the basic process summary for the FEA. So in that, now this is kind of technical. So in that, first step is that domain discretization. That is what we are doing as a meshing. Then select the element type. Here we are defining the shape function and we are defining how that element is going to behave or what type of behavior that element is going to capture by selecting the type of element. Then we are defining the geometry as well as the behavior actually by selecting the element. Then we are deriving the element equations. The third step is deriving the element equation. Fourth step is assemble those element equation in the form of global system. So in this we are, after that we are going to solve this stiffness matrix, like this equation. We can say this is the equation for static analysis, like ku is equal to f is the static analysis equation which we solve at the back end. So K is nothing but the stiffness property of the matrix. U is the nodal displacement vector. F is the nodal force vector. The fifth step will be incorporate boundary and initial condition. That will be our fifth step. Then solve the assembled equations, solve the system of equation for unknown nodal, and then the displacement. First of all, we will solve it for the nodal displacement, and then we are go from the nodal displacement. We will go with the strain, and from the stress-strain relationship, we will find out for the stress. So that will be our sequence actually in the backend. So the logic behind FEA is this: why, how the actually software will solve this equation is this is the summary for that. So I also want to tell you in brief that when I say, I want to tell you the steps, like again, in another words, like first step will be the discretization. Second step will be the defining the global displacement vector U. Then define the element properties and material properties. Fourth will be compute the element stiffness matrix. Fifth will be compute the singular global stiffness matrix. Sixth point will be define the boundary conditions to remove all free body motions, because when we will have the stiffness matrix it will be without boundary condition. So what does it mean? That it will have the rigid body motion, that you don't have any constraint. So when we are applying the load, the body will move as a rigid body motion with rigid body without any deformation or without any strain. So and in that case the software cannot solve that equation. Then compute the non-singular global stiffness matrix, then define the external load and compute it, solve the static equilibrium equations, compute the displacement, compute the displacement vector, and after that compute the other outputs like stress and strain and contact pressure and all other things. You can definitely go ahead and use that. Then here I want to explain you that basically what is stiffness matrix. When we go for stiffness matrix, what is stiffness matrix or how that stiffness matrix is going to solve your equation. So let's consider this is a spring. The stiffness matrix constrain the geometry and material behavior information that indicate the resistance of the element to deformation when subjected to the loading. So if I how we form the stiffness matrix, here I want to explain you that. So consider this is a spring. It has the point 1 and 2. We can consider that as a node 1 and node 2. These two nodes we are going to attach with the spring. This is our element basically which has the two nodes. Then we are applying the force F1 at node 1. We are applying the force F2 at node 2. Because of force 1 we are getting the U1 displacement, and because the force 2 we are getting the U2 displacement. So if we solve the equilibrium at node 1, the equation what we will get is F1 is equal to KU1 minus KU2. And at node 2, the equation we will get is F2 is equal to minus Ku1 plus Ku2. If we go ahead and form the matrix with these equilibrium equations, we can also write in the matrix form for easy solution. So we are going to write in the matrix form. So in that case, we will have the K as a stiffness matrix. We will have the displacement matrix. We will have the force vectors, nodal force vector. So the matrix will look like K minus Ku minus Ku K, then U1 U2 is equal to F1 and F2. This will form Ku is equal to F is the equation basically, or is the matrix which we are going to solve for the linear analysis. Basically, this equation is only valid for static analysis, not linear, but static analysis, like linear as well as non-linear static analysis. This is the equation, but the difference here is that for linear analysis, the stiffness is going to be constant throughout the simulation, and for nonlinear analysis, the stiffness is going to change continuously. And for that, you have to, if, with every increment, you have to solve the stiffness matrix for nonlinear simulation. Then for stiffness matrix, I want to give you more information, like how we arrive with our stiffness matrix, or what is this stiffness matrix means for. So we know that deflection or displacement is equal to PL upon AE, that is force into length divided by area into Young's modulus. Then if we also know that K is nothing but force required to produce unit displacement. So if we write P divided by D, what we will get is that AE by L. So this AE by L, we are going to put in this stiffness matrix basically. Instead of K, we are going to write AE into L, because when we are having the FEA, we know the material properties and we know the geometry, and through which we are going to define the stiffness matrix over there. And displacement is unknown. Forces we know F1 and F2, and we know the stiffness matrix. So we will invert the stiffness matrix over here to find the U1 and U2. We will invert the stiffness matrix. We will create the equation. We will solve for unknown U1 and unknown U2. So what are the properties of the stiffness matrix? Stiffness matrix is symmetric. What does it mean? This is consequence of the symmetry of the forces, like equal and opposite, to ensure the equilibrium. And that's why we can say that stiffness matrix is symmetric. If you say the stiffness matrix is symmetric, 1 minus 1 minus 1 and 1, the stiffness matrix is symmetric diagonally, then matrix is singular. It means that when you find the determinant of that matrix, you will get as a 0, and you cannot solve that, and therefore not invertible. You cannot solve it. That is because the problem as defined is incomplete and does not have the solution. No constraints are applied to prevent the rigid body motion to the system. Hence, boundary conditions are required. So that is why we need the boundary conditions to avoid any kind of non-singularity. To have the non-singular matrix, it is important to apply the boundary conditions. Then system matrix is simply a superposition of individual element stiffness matrix with proper assignment of element nodal displacements and associated stiffness coefficient to system nodal displacement. These are the properties of the stiffness matrix. Then we are going ahead, and I want to share the most important terms in the FEA, that is nodes and elements. So what are the nodes? So here we can say this is a node. Node is a coordinate location in a space where the degree of freedom and physical properties like stress, temperature, velocity, etc. are defined. What does this mean? Is that node is a location basically where we are applying the where it will have the degrees of freedom. What is my degrees of freedom? It means that if you have the any point, you need some coordinates or xy system to define that point in a space. So for the point, you will have the two degrees of freedom, that is x and y. If you consider a line, you will have x and y coordinate. Along with that, you have to also specify what is the angle for the for that line. So that is what the degree of freedom means. How many parameters you will need to define the body completely into space is nothing but the degrees of freedom, and our calculations we can do at those nodal points. And basically displacement we find at the nodal points, and sequentially stresses and strain also we are found always at the node location. And then what is the element? An element is a mathematical entity that defines how the shape and physical property of an internal point is interpolated from the node positions and physical properties. What does this mean is that basically numerical method is a discretization method of a continuous domain. Okay, so that your computer will understand that language. Then the result of this discretization mesh is composed of node located in the space connected with the entities called elements. So results of the discretization is nothing but a mesh. What we get is a mesh which is composed of nodes located in a space, and those nodes we are connecting with the entity called elements. So basically we are connecting two nodes, 2 points with the entity. That entity is nothing but the element. Then the calculations are basically done at the node and interpolated through the element. So we are going to do all the calculation mostly at the node location, and then the results will get interpolated for that particular element. But whenever you are addressing any displacement or stress, we always review the nodal results. Therefore, accuracy of the results is depending on the number of nodes used to discretize the system. Because more number of nodes, more accurately you are going to capture the geometry and more accurate results you are going to have. Then these are the different type of elements like line element, 2D element and 3D elements. uh, so line elements are nothing but the 1D elements like beam element, spring element. 2D elements are the planar elements, and the 3D elements are the planar elements that are triangular or quadrilateral with a specific thickness. And the brick element, 3D plate element are like that, 3D shell element, and 3D brick element like enclosed 3D volume with 4, 5, 6, or 8 corner nodes. So these are we can say different type of elements. This is line element, 1D element, and this is 2D tria element, this is 2D quad element, this is 3D tetra element. Then we have the this is a linear, and this is we can say quadratic or parabolic. So here we have the again only the it's like we will have extra nodes on this, like extra computation points where we are going to do the calculation. So accuracy of these elements like will be higher as compared to the linear element. Quadrilateral elements will always have higher accuracy. So and this is the example of that. And here we can say this is a penta element, 3D penta element. This is 3D quad element basically, or hex element. Then this is the example of the mesh component. So let's say this is a part, and what we are doing, we are meshing the component. It means you are dividing the geometry with these, whatever you're saying in the gray lined, these are the elements basically, and the point which is connecting those elements are nothing but the node over here. So this is how our 3D mesh model will look. Then what best practices we do is like set up simulation to match real world no problem. Basically best practices is that set up the simulation in such a way that you will capture the real life scenario as much as possible. Then verify the material properties. It is important because your accuracy of the results is depend on material properties, your geometry, your sectional properties, whatever you are considering. On that only your accuracy of the FEA is depend. So it is important to verify the material properties. Use engineering knowledge and judgment. Then avoid putting load on nodes or small edges, because if we put the load on the small edge, you will end up with the stress singularity error. Then and that will be unrealistic stress which we are getting, because you are applying the load at only one location, and you will end up not capturing the actual behavior. Then choose formulation type like linear on or non-linear. That is linear element or no, linear element or quadrilateral element. That is the meaning of that. Quadrilateral elements will give the good results, but that is also, it's also depend on analysis to analysis. Then identify the stress singularities. Ensure your results converge properly. 100% your results is going to converge. That you have to understand. So these are the best practices which you generally do while you are doing the FEA. Now we are going with the section 2. Here I'm going to share the current trends and opportunities for the FEA. So I want to tell you that for the here we can say that what was market share for 2019, how it was looking. So for finite element analysis segment is dominated in 2019, and this is because of the cloud-based system. Because now we have the large storage system, we have the faster solvers to solve, and that's why our efficiency is increasing and we can do more and more FEA work. The automotive segments held the dominant share in 2019, uh, mm, and then the aerospace sector is expected to witness the high growth rate over the forecast period. The aerospace sector, yeah, because that is one of the booming sector in which we are using the FEA nowadays a lot. Then Asia Pacific and South Asia America are poised to emerge as a lucrative region markets for CA softwares over the forecast period. So I must say that these are the regions where Asia or South America, these are the regions where FEA is going to use very widely in near future. Then key players in the market, which includes Siemens, EXA Corporation, MSC Software Corporation, and ESI Group, which is from France. So these are the key players, but there are so many players in the industry present. So these are the current trends. So from here we can conclude that FEA in near future, FEA is having a lot of bright future. If anybody want to pursue the career in the field of FEA, it is the right time. Then current trends and opportunities for FEA. In this, we are next we are going to see what are the softwares which are in the market. So these are the softwares like we are mostly using nowadays: Abacus Standard and Explicit, ANSYS, Hypermesh, SolidWorks, Nastran, ANSA, LS-DYNA, MATLAB, NX Ideas, Fluent, OptiStruct, Patran, ProMechanica, Radios, Unigraphics. So these are the softwares which are basically most widely getting used in the field of FEA nowadays to, uh, to solve any problem. Then work opportunities and industries. So FEA is basically everywhere. In all industries nowadays, we are using FEA to get more trustworthy results. So we can say aerospace industry, automotive, off-highway construction, medical devices, consumer electronics, civil engineering, electrical engineering, biomedical, and virtual engineering. For virtual engineering, nowadays Facebook is a very emerging partner for the they are doing a lot of virtual engineering work nowadays. uh, and then electronic consumer electronics like companies like Microsoft, Amazon, they are there. Aerospace, Boeing is there, and many other, Airbus and many other components are there. Many other companies are there. For automotive, we can say Chrysler, Caterpillar, Chrysler, Cummins, they are all there for automotive and engines basically. Then off-highway construction equipments, Caterpillar is there, and like that it has lot of scope. And as people are getting more and more aware about it, this technology is getting very famous. uh, then if we want to like learn the FEA, what skills or what stages you should take. So FEA learning process is like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1 will be learning FEA theory. So this is like a very basic introduction which I am giving right now, but FEA is a very, very vast subject. So learning FEA theory is very important. So in that case, you have to understand exactly what are the nodes, what are the elements, what are the partial differential equations, what are the integration points, what are the shape functions, how we are calculating different theories, and what is the logic behind it, how we formulate the stiffness matrices for complex complex problems. So all those things you have to study. So it is good to go with the basic theoretical knowledge about the FEA. Then second point, you have to be good with the modeling practice, learning proper modeling practice. Like based on the shape of the geometry, you should able to decide what type of elements you are going to use, how your geometry will be, then what type of behavior you want to capture for that, what type of elements you are going to use, and all that, how different type of connections you are going to define, how you are going to simulate your entire complex model or complex assemblies, that you should be very, very have good knowledge about. Or if you want to do the meshing, how you can control the number of nodes or number of elements by but you also give the high quality. So all that judgment you have to have good knowledge about. Then learning how to use the FEA software is the part, but how to use the FEA software you can learn eventually once you get into the FEA. But having the good theoretical knowledge about the FEA and good modeling techniques, knowledge of good modeling techniques is like a very important skills which you should have. And then apart from that, you should be good or have basic fundamental knowledge about statics, mechanics of material, dynamics, machine design, and engineering graphics to succeed in this field. So I must say that if you can learn on all this or get some basic idea, you can definitely get into FEA and be successful in this field.